he is very knowledgeable about Lord Jagannath. He likes also to give presentation to devotees on the importance of Vaishnava Sangha and other topics of regarding devotional development. And he has his classes all over the internet, and they are a very big inspiration for the Vaishnava community at large. And a lot of people take his advice in different matters. And today we are privileged to have him here. Madhavananda Prabhu is... Okay, that's why I was... it's very nice that we have the class recorded, and for those who by any chance miss it, I think it will be uploaded in YouTube, right?
Yeah, well, we're live streaming on YouTube right now also. It's both on Zoom
all right,
and YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, so then the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ananta Prabhu. It's nice to see all the devotees. Actually, we visited Oslo once some years ago. I have to comment though, and I'm looking at everybody's faces, and I hope I get some response. Isn't this a little strange? What do you think? Yeah, nod your head yes or no. I think it's a little strange. This is the times that we live in. That I have two people sitting here, live persons in our room, listening also, but I'm not even looking at them. I'm looking at the computer for some devotees of thousands of miles away. Anyway, thank you all very much. I'm really grateful to Sanatani and to Ananta Prabhu for what you're doing. And we'll say a few words. One thing I want to stress philosophically, in the Bhagavatam, it says, Parasparana katanam pavanam bhagavad yasamito ratirmitastustya nivitamita atmana. This is in the 11th canto, chapter 3, where it says that one should learn how to associate with devotees, and we do that by having back and forth. The word paraspara in Sanskrit and Hindi and Bengali and Odia means there's some back and forth discussion. So that's really important for devotees. That's how we create a sangha. So I'm sorry all of you are sitting there in front of a computer screen at the Sunday Feast program today, trying to listen to me. We'll try to make us as personal as we can. It would be very inspiring for me if some of you had some feedback, some reflections, comments, or something at the end. I'd really appreciate that. So anyway, thank you all very much. I'm going to go ahead and start, but I first begin with some Mangalacharana prayers, because that's how we want to establish auspiciousness and how we traditionally begin. So this will take just a couple of minutes. Just bear with me. Gora Graganya Gana Gota Goloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyata Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gadaratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachi Adile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangira Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bhidana Padama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Judi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathabda Brajabala Bapahimam Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you give that to her? There's some other small ones in there too. Maybe those don't work. Sorry. So today I'd like to speak something with you about a topic that we call the culture of respect. I presume everybody there who's listening speaks English, understands English. If you don't understand what I'm saying, raise your hand. Okay. Ananta Prabhu, does everyone understand English okay?
Yeah, I think everybody does.
Okay. Thank you very much. So today, most people are not very much interested in religion, but people are very much interested in community. And that also was an important principle for Srila Prabhupada in establishing ISKCON. And it's also an extremely important principle in Gaudiya Vaishnavism in general, the principle of community. And in community, what do we want? It's not just that we want to have a mob where we all come together and are angry about something, we protest something or whatever, but we want to have a certain quality. We want to have certain types of relationships. That's what's valuable. And that's what's valuable in bhakti. Because in bhakti, so much, a large percentage of bhakti is in the association that we have. So I'd like to speak something about how we can cultivate that as a community in a natural way. You can't legislate respect. It's like sometimes a parent may tell the child, you listen to me. And the child may say, especially teenagers say this, well, why? And the mother or father says, because I'm your mother, that's why. But that doesn't work very well. You can't just legislate respect. That works to a certain extent, but it's not very nice because really you're asking people to kind of cut out part of their brain and just follow you blindly. And that's not very healthy for community. So I'd like to speak about some of these principles. I'd like to begin with looking at Bhagavad Gita, 17, chapter 17, text 14. For those of you who have a book handy, you might want to look at this. In the 17th chapter, Krishna speaks about different types of austerity. In text 14, he says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Socham Arjavam Brahmacharjam Ahimsacha Saridam Tapa Uchate. He says that he speaks about austerity, tapa, austerity of the body. Deva Dvija Guru Pragya. That austerity of the body involves puja or worship of Deva, the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, the Guru, Pragya, worshipable personalities. And it also involves Socham, being clean, Arjavam, being simple, Brahmacharjam, being celibate, Ahimsa, being nonviolent. Saridam tapa uchate. We have this word also in Odia and Bengali, sharir. Sharir means a body. In Sanskrit, sarira. Here's sariram. Sariram tapa uchate. These are austerities pertaining to the body. Srila Prabhupada writes a short purport to this. Please listen carefully. He says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead here explains the different kinds of austerity and penance. First, he explains the austerities and penances practiced by the body. One should offer or learn to offer respect to God or to the demigods, the perfect qualified Brahmins, and the spiritual master, and superiors like father, mother, or any person who is conversant with Vedic knowledge. These should be given proper respect. One should practice cleansing oneself externally and internally, and he should learn to become simple in behavior. He should not do anything which is not sanctioned by the scriptural injunctions. He should not indulge in sex outside of married life, for sex is sanctioned in the scripture only in marriage, not otherwise. This is called celibacy. These are penances and austerities as far as the body is concerned. Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. So this respect is such a very, very important part of civilization. This is the difference between animal life and human life. Today, I want to speak to you about 8 different types of respect and how respect is so important in our society. It's said in the book Prema Vivarta by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate, Jagadananda Pandit, Bhakta Bhede Acharya Bheda, that the standards of achar or behavior, of Vaishnava etiquette, that someone has, that a bhakta has, a devotee has, that reflects, that's the quality or the position of a devotee. And that's the quality or position of our community. So this respect is so important. Every culture has some respect. What is the respect that we have in modern culture? You can understand respect. A very poor person or a very low-class person can get respect if they have certain qualities. And in today's society, someone may be born, for example, in America, there's a very generally considered low-class place in terms of violence and in terms of poverty, and that's Harlem in New York City. And but you have some persons there, the Harlem Globetrotters. When I was growing up as a boy, they're a basketball team. And because they could play great basketball, and they became famous, and they got lots of money. So if you have fame and money, then everybody gives you respect. It doesn't matter what your qualities are. It doesn't matter what your birth is. And if you have fame and you have some athletic ability, they appreciate that. So people in today's culture, they give respect for money, for fame, and for sex ability, how beautiful a woman is, how thin someone is. And if someone's very fat, we don't appreciate them very much. So this is very low class. And it causes so much frustration in society because everybody by nature wants respect. Women also want respect. But for a woman, her shelf life of respect is limited to how long her body is youthful and slender, and she gets married because she's slender and beautiful. But then after a few more pizzas and ice creams or something, and a few years down the line, she gains a few pounds. And the husband's no longer attracted to her, and society doesn't give the same respect anymore. But that's not true in Indian culture. In Indian culture, there's a culture of respect. The word culture in this regard, I'm using both as a noun and as a verb. Culture also means to cultivate. So this culture, this society is one which cultivates respect. And it's a society which we can give respect to everyone. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us with this most important verse of the Shikshastakam, Tunadapi Sanichena Todoreva Sahishrana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sudahari, that we should not demand respect for ourselves. We should give all respect to others. That's the basic principle of community. We give respect to other people. That's the basic principle of all relationships. It's the principle of friendship. If you have a friend, but you cheat on them, you tell lies to them, you want to steal their money or something, how is that your friend? If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, but you don't respect them, and you just want to beat them, or you just want something out of them, what kind of relationship is that? With your children, if there's no respect given, if you don't have respect for the children, they don't have respect for you, what kind of relationship do you have? So this respect is the essential principle of all cultures. And Srila Prabhupada wanted a system of respect. He gave a system in our society where we have sannyasis, we have temple presidents, we have Brahmins, we have mothers, we have preachers, we have pujaris, we have different people we give respect to for different reasons, just for social reasons. I don't know how elevated that sannyasi is, that mother is, that Brahmin is, that speaker is, that pujari, that preacher, but I give respect because they have this quality. And that's a symptom of a cultured person. In the Varnashram system, different qualities of respect are described in the Manasanghita. Vipranam gyanato jaistyam kshatriyanam tuviryataha vaishyanam danyadatana sudranameva janmataha. It describes different systems of respect. For Vipranam, for the Vipras, for the Brahmins, gyanato, their seniority is judged by how much knowledge they have, sacred knowledge especially. And Kshatriyanam tuviryata, by the Kshatriyas, how much valor they have. And that valor means how honest they are, what kind of good character they have, how powerful they have, not just what good administrator they are. We give respect to Kshatriyas for that viryata. Vaishyanam dhanata. The Vaishyas, we give respect by how much money they have. If somebody's a really wealthy person, we should give them respect. In India, they call them a Thakur. Someone who has some property, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was in charge of Choti Mangalpur. They had practically a whole village, and they had a lot of property and people working for him. He was a Thakur in that sense. Thakur literally just means a landlord. It's one of the meanings of it. So the Vaishyas, they would get respect by their wealth. And the Sudras, Sudram Ameva, Eva means only, Janmata. Only the Sudras are given respect simply by age. We give respect to everyone by their age. I like to say, as I'm getting older, that we respect fossils. We respect something which is old, but that age is not the highest regard that we want to have for someone. Therefore, the Manasanghita goes on to say, Natena Brido. Brida means old age. Natena Brido. So it's not just that you're old. Bhavati yena shipalitam shira, and your hair is gray, that we give respect to someone. Rather, yovai, yuva, someone may be young, but apyadis yandastam deva shiravam viduhu. If someone knows the Vedas, if someone knows Shastra, then we give great respect to that person. And that's so important in society. We can judge how advanced a society is, how advanced a Sangha is, a community is, a temple community is, by how evolved and developed our system of respect is to other people. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings in one song, Deho Nata Jata Jata. My dear Guru Devi prays, please give me the strength to give proper respect to everyone. That's very important. Prabhupada writes in the purport in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, it is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. That can be a little problematic sometimes in our society today, especially we don't have respect for leaders. We don't have respect, even sometimes within our devotional community. We may speak some things, I don't know about this person who's in charge, this manager, or this or that. But if we speak like that, we're going to hurt the society. And therefore, we see in the Bhagavatam that even when there was demoniac persons like Maharaj Vena, who was killing children in his youth, he was such a demoniac person, or Kamsa, they were very slow to get rid of those personalities. And rather, they gave respect to them for some time because they had some position. So that's culture. We see that Krishna gave someone some position, and we give some respect to that, not necessarily even because I agree with the person or I like the person, but because we want to support the mission of things. In Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a beautiful description of 8 different reasons why we give respect in his book, Chaitanya Sikshamrita. So let me take you on a little journey of respect, and we can go around these 8 different reasons and focus a little on each one of them. The first reason we give respect is nara matrara maryada. Maryada means to give respect. Anyone who's a nara matra, who has a human birth, and even more than that, anyone even who's an animal. Srila Prabhupada once was in Los Angeles and he rang his bell and called for his servant. The servant came upstairs, said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada, what do you want?" And Prabhupada said, "Sit there, do you see there on the floor?" And he pointed to a certain place. The devotee's looking, he didn't see anything. I don't see anything. He said, Prabhupada said, "No, there's a little insect there." Prabhupada said, "He's been here a long time. I think he's hungry. You should take him outside very carefully." So Srila Prabhupada was respectful to the insects. In Bhubaneswar, when Prabhupada came to Orissa in 1977, a few months before he left this world, the devotees took him for a walk in Nandakanan Gardens. It's a kind of a zoo there also. And as they were walking through, one of the Western sannyasi disciples of Prabhupada, I won't say names, he'd taken his danda, his sannyas danda, and he put it through the cage, and he was poking the lion with the danda to try to get the lion to roar or do something exciting, And Prabhupada noticed, and Prabhupada became angry. And he stopped and he turned and he said, "Stop that." He said, "You should be respectful. After all, he's a lion." So being able to offer respect to others is a symptom of a great personality. Now, don't misunderstand. Offering respect to someone doesn't mean that you agree with them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you endorse what they're doing, but it means we can respect them for some principle. And we'll speak about these 8 different principles. The first of which is nara matrara maryada. Anyone who is a human being. They may be a drunkard on the street, but that person has a human birth. It's such a great thing. We should give respect to that person. But more than that, more than someone who's just taken a human birth, sabhyatara maryada. We give respect to someone who belongs to a sabha. Sabha means a group. It means someone who's a gentleman, someone who has some training, some culture. They belong, because when you belong to a sangha, when you belong to a community, just to be able to function in that community means you have to have some kind of etiquette. You have to have some kind of behavior. Otherwise, you can't function there. And we've seen a lot of people, they can't. And they just have to, they're just by themselves because they haven't learned the art, sabhyatara maryada, of being respectful to others. So more respect than just a human we give to someone who's a cultured person. But more respect than a cultured person we give to Raja or Pada Maryada. Raja Maryada means we give respect to someone who's a king. It's a beautiful example in the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita that Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they were the prime minister, chief minister of Nawab Hussain Shah. And at one point, Sanatana Goswami, kind of like sometimes children do, they wrote a note in to work, or the child writes in a note into schools, "I'm sick, I can't come to school today." So he wrote a note to Nawab Hussain Shah and said, "I'm sorry, I can't come in anymore, and I'm not feeling well." But in actuality, his health was just fine. The real thing was he was going and hanging out with the Hare Krishna devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And he didn't want to go and spend time with Nawab Hussain Shah because Nawab Hussain Shah, well, his favorite pastimes in life were killing Brahmins and Vaishnavas and killing cows and eating meat. He wasn't exactly a very nice person. So Nawab Hussain Shah, at one point, he was suspicious. Why Sanatana Goswami is not coming in? It's very awkward for me. I need his help. So he sent someone to see what was going on. And the person went to check it out, and he came back and said, his health's just fine. He's just there with those Hare Krishna people doing kirtan and reading Bhagavatam. So the Nawab went there to see him. Now remember the Nawab's position. He's not a very good person. But it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that when he arrived in that assembly, what happened? Patsaha dekiya shabe sambrame utila sambrame asana diya rajadeva saila Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It said that as soon as everybody saw Patsahadekya, they saw the Nawab show up there, Sambrame Utili, they all stood up to give respect, and they respectfully gave him a place to sit. Respectfully gave him a place to sit. Now, these are the topmost Brahmins and Vaishnavas, associates of Sanatan Goswami. And they're being respectful to this guy who's like a mass murderer. He's much worse than any ISKCON leaders I've ever heard of. He's a mass murderer, cow killer, meat eater, rapist, demoniac person, and they're giving him respect? How? Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, he gives one sentence. He says, when a person occupies an exalted executive post, one should consider that he or she has acquired the grace of the Lord. So this is why they're respectful, because they had culture, not because they agreed with Nawab Hussain Shah, not because they wanted to borrow money from him, not because they wanted to have lunch with him, Hare Krishna, but because they saw he has this position from Krishna. Krishna's given him this. So that's Raja or Padamaryada. That's the third reason we give respect to someone. If someone has some position, maybe the mayor of Oslo, and maybe there's a lot of scandals about them and different things, but they're the mayor. If we give respect to a lion, if we give respect to a little insect in the room, we should also give respect to the mayor, much more so. That's Raja Maryada. But even more respect to Raja Maryada, we give respect to Vidya Maryada, someone who has knowledge. Once I was invited to give a lecture here in Orissa, in a village, and the governor of Orissa was coming also to that program, and there were about 25,000 people who went there. And so the devotees somehow, they asked me to be the speaker, and they sent a car for us, the people who were organizing the program. I got in the car, and there was a professor in the car. And this person was so learned, oh my God. He'd memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita by the time he was like 8 or 10 years old. He knew, it seemed just talking with him, he knew hundreds, maybe thousands of verses from Bhagavatam. He knew verses from books like Chaitanya Charitamrita and Lalita Madhav and Vidagdha Madhav and Ujjwal Nilaman. He was quoting so many Sanskrit verses. Because you should respect someone who has knowledge. But as I spoke with him, he was telling me some other things, and he was very fond of smoking cigarettes. It turned out he was very fond of eating fish. He said, eat fish, it's very good for your memory. I don't know about that. Some people like that idea. And he has some very strange ideas about Lord Jagannath. So I want to give respect to him, not because he eats fish or smokes, but because he has knowledge. And I'm giving respect to knowledge. That's culture. But that's the fourth position of respect. But the fifth position of respect, we give even more respect to someone who's sadguna, who has good qualities. That's sadguna maryada. We give more respect to someone who has good qualities. Once we were trying to get a rickshaw here in Jagannath Puri many years ago, my wife and I. Sometimes it's a little hard to get you on the rickshaw, and they want to charge you 200 rupees for a ride, which should be about 5 or 10 rupees or something. It's really bad. So I'm a little bit of an angry person. I can't tolerate that. So many rickshaw wallahs were coming, and I would ask them, Keti Dam, how much? And they were telling me ridiculous prices. I just take cello. And then we started walking, and it looked like we were going to have a long walk. And then at one point, a rickshaw wallah pulled up next to us, and was saying, Ashwin, get on. And I said, yeah, Keti Dam, how much? And he said, oh, Panch Rupya, 5 rupees. And I saw, oh, this person really, he has good qualities. And then as we're going along in the rickshaw, this poor rickshaw wallah, who probably doesn't have enough to live in a concrete building with a proper roof on his head, and probably doesn't have enough money to get started singing beautiful bhajans to Lord Jagannath. And he was singing some, and I would start singing something I know. And it was a very wonderful ride. So I'll give more respect to that rickshawwala than I would to that big professor who's giving a lecture, that big Pandal program, 25,000 people. Even though that professor is so learned, and the rickshawwala probably maybe can't even write his own name, but that rickshawwala has good qualities. That's the fifth position of respect. The sixth position of respect is Varna Maryada. We give respect to different Varnas, and especially we give respect to the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, anyone who's acting according to a Varna. They have a proper occupation, especially what we understand by a Varna, not just by their birth. In sweeping the street or something in India, or some very Hare Krishna, or some very low class activity, that's, we understand someone by their Varna, by their occupation. That's Varna Maryada. And amongst Varna Maryada, especially, we give respect to the Brahmins, as described in Manasamhita, Vipranam Genato Jaischyam, that we give respect to the Brahmins according to their sacred knowledge, how much they have. So that's very important. That's the sixth position of respect. We're coming to the top of our ladder now. The seventh position is called Ashram Maryada, where we give respect to anyone who's practicing ashram. How many people practice ashram today? I've seen some people, they wear saffron because they're a bachelor. We give great respect to any brahmachari, any grihasta, any vanaprastha, and especially to a sannyasi who's living according to an ashram. An ashram means a place where you're taking ashray, you're taking shelter to worship the Lord. And you're living according to particular rules. It means if you get married, you stay married, even to the same person, as outrageous as that sometimes sounds today. We stay married. We practice brahmacharya life. We practice married life. And as a married person, we take care of our children. We give them education. We work hard to make money and things. That's proper grihastha ashram. Vanaprastha ashram means that we renounce things at a certain point, and we dedicate ourselves to spiritual life. And the fourth ashram, which we give the most respect to, is the sannyas ashram. And it's not my God, costume also. But we especially give respect to the sannyasis because they have the quality of renunciation. That's what we're giving respect to. So that's the seventh level of respect. Any cultured person in Vedic culture should know. There's 7 different levels of respect we've discussed. Each one is higher than the other, but there's one last level of respect, which is the most important of all. And that 8th and topmost level of respect is Bhakti Maryada. We give respect to someone who has bhakti. And it doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter if they're a man, if they're a woman. It doesn't matter what their ashram is. It doesn't matter what their varna is. It doesn't matter even how much knowledge they have. It doesn't even matter. Principle. In this regard, there's a wonderful story found in the Haribhakti Sudodaya, which is supposed to be part of the Brihanaradiya Purana. It's the discussion there about the great sage Markandeya Rishi, who was 7 kalpas old. I can't even calculate that. It's like some hundreds of millions of years old. It's like really, really old. And once there was an assembly with the Sapta Rishis, all the most important rishis and big spiritualists in the universe, and Markandeya Rishi was in charge. And at that time, Vyasadeva came, and Parashara Muni is the son of Vyasadeva. Parashara Muni was sitting on the lap of his father. And as soon as Parashara Muni arrived, Parashara Muni at that time was 7 years old. Markandeya Kalpa, I don't know, it's Sahasra Yuga Paryantamahardya Brahmanovadu. one day of Lord Brahma is equal to 1,000 yugas, and so many yugas put together. So Markandeya Rishi is extremely, extremely old. And he's in charge of the whole assembly. But when that little boy, Parashara Muni, came in the assembly, he got up and offered obeisances to that little boy, giving more respect to that little boy than he did to all the big, big rishis in the assembly. And can you imagine? I remember once we were kind of playing a little bit. We were in Los Angeles community there, and a little Gurukul boy, he's about 5 years old, was walking down the street. And he was so effulgent and so brilliant. I told my friend who was next to me, I said, we should offer obeisances to him. And so here these big people were, at that time I was maybe 25 years old. We offered obeisances to that little boy, and the little boy became frightened. He imagine if you're 7 years old and someone who's 7 kalpas old is offering obeisances to you, and he's doing it in front of this assembly. He's doing it in front of an assembly of the most senior and respected rishis in the whole universe. So Parashara Muni's little boy's eyes got real big, and he fell down at his feet and said, no, this is not right. You're elder to all of us. You should worship us. And all the sages, maybe too, they're kind of thinking, what's going on? Said, well, how? And I said, I'm 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And Rishi's 7 kalpas old. So then at that time, Markandeya Rishi, Yavanto hikshana jata harismrityaiva dehinam ekiktraiva tan eva gananam karyam ayusa. He smiled and he spoke to the rishis. He said, my dear rishis, you're so very learned. Prahamadhi tapasvinam, Madhi in that assembly of the persons who are there, tapasvinam, all the tapasvis, the rishis. He said, ayuso gananam, how do we calculate? Gananam means to count. The ayus are the years, the life of a person. He says, touch trinu tatvata. You please tell me this in the truth. I'm going to tell you this thing. Yavanta hikshana jata harismityaiva dehinam. Everybody has material birth. If you go to California, I used to live in Northern California, they have the redwoods. And some who is more senior? 1,000-year-old redwood tree or a week-old tulsi plant? Who do we give more respect to? Of course, we give more respect to Tulsi Devi, because Tulsi Devi is a devotee because she has bhakti. So it's not just on the basis of age. He says, rather, we give respect to someone, Yavanto hikshana jata harismityaiva. We can calculate how much time someone has spent doing Hari Bhajan, thinking of Krishna. That's how old someone really is. And so he turned back to that little boy, that Parashara Muni, was feeling so embarrassed. And Markandeya Rishi told him, although we're much older than you, still, in terms of your life, you've spent more time thinking about Krishna than all of us put together in our old age, even though you're only about 7 years old. That's real seniority. And this is the nature of a Vaishnav. When we say the word nature, it means dharma. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it speaks about what is the essential nature. Dharma means religion, but dharma is a very difficult word to translate into English. Dharma, it comes from Dhru Dhatu, the beads of this, the root, Dhru, which means to maintain. And Prabhupada gives some examples. The dharma of water is to be wet. The dharma of sugar is to be sweet. The dharma of chilies is to be hot. So what is the quality of a Vaishnava? describes Chaitanya Bhagavat. Ese Vaishnava Dharma Sabare Pranati Sehi Dharma Dvajijar Iti Nahirati Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Ese Vaishnava Dharma. This is the Vaishnava Dharma. Sabare Pranati. To give respect to everyone. That's the quality of a Vaishnava. Say Dharma Dvaji. There's some other people running around, and sometimes they have Kunti Mala on, they have Tilak on, and they're advertising. Dvaja means a flag. Someone who waves a flag of Dharma. In other words, they advertise themselves as a great. We call that person a Dharma Dvaji. Because really, devotees, by their nature, they don't want respect. Rather, they want to give respect to others. So, Ase Vaishnava Dharma Sabare Pranati. The quality of a Vaishnava is they give respect to everyone. But say Dharma Dvaji, the nature of a Dharma Dvaji is they don't have iti nahi rati. Nahi rati. They have no attachment for this. They want to get respect for themselves. And they want to chastise other people. Hey, you should give respect for me. Prabhupada said in one conversation in Los Angeles in 1972, he said, unnecessary pride is very bad. And then he said, listen, I've become very advanced in Krishna consciousness. That we should never think. We should work together to help this movement. And what is the base for we're looking that this is the quality. Forgiveness is something that we're all looking for in all of our relationships. You might be a mass murderer. You killed so many people. You may be a rapist. You may be so many terrible things, but still you're hoping, that person's hoping, maybe he can meet a girl who will still love me in spite of my faults, who will overlook my faults. And that's the nature of love, because we all have faults. And if we can't look past those faults, then we won't be able to have a society. It won't be possible. Srila Prabhupada, he wrote in one letter in 1973, he says, now, by Krishna's grace, we've built up something significant in the shape of this ISKCON, and we are all one family. Sometimes there may be disagreement and quarrel, but we should not go away. These inebrities or these problems can be adjusted. Prabhupada gives a formula. 3 things he's about to say. These problems will go away by 3 qualities that we can do. These inebrities, these problems can be adjusted by the cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. Cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. The Prabhupada said, so I request you to kindly remain in the association of devotees and work together. He says the association of our devotees and work together. The test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate. It's so easy. Everywhere I go, there are factions, there are politics. You know, if somebody's saying, yeah, I really like the kirtan that such and such Prabhu did. And someone else says, oh, that guy, you like his kirtan? He's just trying to impress the girls. I know, that's why he's doing kirtan like that. We should forgive persons. Maybe he is trying to impress the girls because that's his nature. Maybe he's 17 or 18 years old, or maybe he's 50 years old, whatever. Everyone's trying to impress the girls amongst the men, right? That's just the nature. But we forgive them in the same way we forgive a child. We have to have that cooperative spirit. We have to learn, if we want to be successful, if we want to be happy as individuals in our life, we have to learn this art of the culture of respect. I want to tell you a couple stories before we finish. I'd like to try to give enough time, at least for a few reflections, if anybody has. I'm just reminding you, please, if you have some reflections, something that you liked, you can please mention it at the end. Dronacharya in the Mahabharata, he was the guru, the teacher of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And on one occasion, he taught them, and it's the system of the teacher to ask for Guru Dakshina, some donation at a certain point from the students. Not that they charge some money to go to school or something, but at a certain point they give something, and they'll give according to what they've gotten from the Guru. So Dronacharya, one day he called for Yudhishthira. Hey, Yudhishthira, come here. Yes, Guru Maharaj. And Dronacharya told him, Yudhishthira, I want some Guru Dakshina from you. I've given you so much knowledge now, I want something back from you. Yes, Gurudev, what can I give you? And Dronacharya said, I want you to go out and find just one person who in all categories, in all ways, is lower than you. Yudhishthira is the king of the world. Yudhishthira is the son of Dharmaraj, the son of Yamaraj. He's known as Dharmaraj. Yeah? He's the most pious person. He's a devotee, a great devotee of Krishna. And Dronacharya is telling him, go out, just find one living entity. It doesn't have to be a person, just some entity who's lower than you in every respect. Yudhishthira said, yes, Guru Maharaj. And he went out. And then Dronacharya, he called, hey, Duryodhan, Asun, come here. Duryodhan, I've been teaching you for a long time. Now I want some Guru Dakshina. Yes, Gurudev, what can I do? Duryodhan, I want you to go out for your Guru Dakshina. Just find one person or one entity, who whatever, one personality who's better than you in every regard. Yes, Guru Maharaj. And they were gone for a long time. Finally, Duryodhan returned, and Duryodhan looked really annoyed, really angry. And he came in and he said, Guru Maharaj, you gave me a very difficult task. He said, I've been all over the world. I looked everywhere just trying to find one person who's better than me. I wasn't able to do it. Nobody's intelligent. Nobody is as handsome as me. No one is as humble as me. It's very, very difficult. He said, just about that time, Yudhishthira Maharaj returned. And Yudhishthira looked very sad. And he came with his head hanging down before Dronacharya. He said, Guru Maharaj, I'm sorry. I failed. You've given me so much. And now I just wanted to please you and give you serve your request. But I went all over the world. I searched everywhere. And I couldn't find anyone who was really lower than me in every respect. And at that time, Dronacharya, he reassured Yudhishthira and Duryodhan. He said, Duryodhan, your search is over. Here is one person who's better than you, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Yudhishthira, your search is also over. Here's one person who's definitely lower than you, Duryodhan. So the nature of a Vaishnava is they give respect to everyone. Aise Vaishnava Dharma Sabare Pranati. They give respect to everyone. It's such an important quality. And we want to teach people this quality. Deho Nata Jata Jata. How to learn the science of giving respect. Not just blindly, not just sentimentally, because they're also part of our political party or something that I give respect to them. Or because they're a teacher in my school, or even because they're my mother or father. I give respect because they're a teacher. I give respect because they're a politician. I especially give respect because they're my mother or father. But I also give respect according to their situation. And especially out of everything, the most important consideration is their bhakti. I'll tell you one last story. There's one wealthy, very educated man who, at the end of his life, decided to retire and take up spiritual life full time. So he went to Radhakund, and he was staying at Radhakund, and everything was good. He was doing his bhajan and things, but he had this desire. He wanted to take initiation. And he heard about one great Mahatma Guru who was there. And so he was very impressed. He watched that person for some time. He heard some of his kathas and things, and he was very inspired by him. So one day he went to him, he said, Maharaj, please, will you be merciful to me? Will you give me initiation? And that sadhu said, you're so qualified. You're so wealthy. You come from a very high family. You look at, you're very handsome. And you're very educated. How can I give you initiation? No, 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 Maharaj, please, please. No, no, I can't. And he kept refusing. And that man kept approaching the sadhu. And finally, the sadhu one day told him, okay, I'll give you initiation on Monday. And this was Friday. If in the next few days, Saturday and Sunday, you can go out and you find one personality who is lower than you, this is the same kind of story we just told you about Dronacharya and Yudhishthira, who's lower than you in every way. Thank you, Maharaj. He's so happy that this is not going to be a problem. I mean, he's like a PhD. He's got a big education. He comes from a very high-class family. He's very wealthy. He knows so much etiquette and things. So he went out and he saw a rickshaw. Well, look at this guy. No education, doing a very low-class service. No, I'm definitely better than him. So I'll take him to my Gurudev. But then he thought for a moment, wait a minute. Actually, this person was born here at Radhakund. And this person, his whole life, although he's not educated, his whole life he served the Vaishnavas by giving them rides and things. Actually, he's not lower than me. Oh. So this is harder than I thought. Let me go. And he went a little bit further and he saw a bungi. Now, here's a little bit of advice. If you want to get in a fight in India, call someone a bungi. Bungi means a street sweeper, a street sweeper, sorry. Someone who cleans the stool and the nasty things on the street. It's kind of like a bad word in a lot of places in India. To call someone a bungi, it's really bad. You don't even call a bungi. It's So he saw this bungi, and the bungi was cleaning some stool, human stool, out of the drain. And he thought, oh my God, what an abominable life he's living. He's definitely lower than me. But then he stopped for a moment and he thought again, he's also born here at Radhakund. And his whole life, he's been serving the dust of Braj. And he's covered with the dust of Braj. And he's serving in such a humble way. Actually, he's also greater than me. This is not as easy as I thought. And so the whole day went by. Saturday went by, Sunday went by. He couldn't find anyone who was lower than himself. And he's feeling great anxiety. What am I going to do? How am I going to get initiated? Finally, Monday morning, he has to go and see Maharaj. Monday morning, he's out in the field doing his business, passing stool. And as he passed stool, Hare Krishna, he saw a worm crawl into his stool. And he thought, thank you, Krishna. Finally, I found some creature who's definitely lower than me, living in the stool. That's really, really bad. But then he stopped. And he thought to himself, I eat nice Krishna prasadam every day. And what happens to that Krishna prasadam after I eat it? It turns into this very nasty, disgusting substance, of stool. And nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to go anywhere near it. And this worm, who's also a Dambasi, this worm, he's doing something good that I can't do. He's turning the stool, he's eating the stool, and he's turning it into good soil. I can't do that. I've had a big education, but I can't do what this worm is doing. And so he went back to his Guru Maharaj. He bowed his head and he said, Maharaj, I'm sorry. I couldn't find anybody who's lower than me. And then that sadhu, a big smile came on his face. And he said, now you are qualified. Now I'll give you initiation. So this is required for a Vaishnava Sangha, for things to go smoothly for Srila Prabhupada's mission, for us to be able to serve the mission of Gurudev. It's such a difficult thing because we have so many different people, and some of them are not trained very well. Some of you coming from India, maybe you come from very high-class families, you've been trained nicely, and you see some of the Westerners, oh my God, maybe they've been married several times, or maybe they don't know how to clean themselves properly, they don't know this, or they don't know that. But don't look at that. Look to see their bhakti, their devotion to Srila Prabhupada. And that's what we want to give respect for. And in a society like that, where we can give all respect to everyone like that, Deho nata jata jata, according to their position, not in a sentimental way, not blindly, but according to their position, that society becomes so attractive and everyone appreciates it so much. It's not that we don't value educated people. It's not that we don't value pujaris. It's not that we don't value managers or sannyasis. We value all those persons, but we appreciate the qualities that they have. And especially we appreciate the quality of bhakti. So I want to stop there. I was hoping to finish a little earlier. All of you, I think all of you should get a prize. You're sitting there in the temple in Oslo watching this screen. You don't even know what I smell like. I took a bath today, I can promise you that. You don't know what's going on. You just see this strange face and screen shouting and saying this thing and that thing. Please do me a favor. Okay, it's not so easy for me either. If some of you have some reflections, something, a prize that you won from the talk today, maybe you could share that with me today. I would greatly appreciate it. Ananta, you're there with everybody. Sanatani, you're there. I don't know if any of you have some reflection or something you want to share. This would be a good time. Thank you. And thank you very much, Sanatani, for what you're doing. I want to give all respect to you. It's not an easy thing. Being a single mother and taking care of the temple and doing this thing, and just being a single mother, you deserve a prize. But to also take care of Prabhupada's mission and things. God bless you and thank you so much. And all the devotees for what you're doing there in Oslo. I so much appreciate it. Thank you. So does anybody have any reflections they'd like to share? Something you liked? Helps me to know not everybody went to sleep. I can't even hear if you're snoring or not.
I have a question. Or earlier you mentioned that, yes, you mentioned that if there is, disrespect within the yatra or within the community, that it will destroy the community, that it will, make it weak. So wondering if you can elaborate on it a little bit.
Yeah, if we see faults with everybody, let me read you a little letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to a devotee. This was in 1971. He said,
You froze a little bit, Prabhu. At the beginning, the letter, it said it's just frozen. I think something must have happened to the internet there. Let's see if he comes back.
Maybe you can try to send him a short message in WhatsApp or something.
Sanatana, dear devotees, I'm sorry. Just pretend that you're listening to someone who's sitting in Jagannath Puri, India, and has an internet connection that would probably be against the law in Norway. They would probably arrest you if you tried to advertise an internet connection like this there. So Sanatana was just saying, oh, Krishna. Connection. Okay. Sanatana was just asking that sometimes we have problems in our society. We don't get along together. We don't have proper respect. How does that affect the society? So is not by criticizing, but by friendly behavior.
It froze again, so we only got the last sentence.
Okay, thank you for telling me. Prabhupada gives a solution. He says, I know that you're complaining about the devotees, and maybe you're right about what you're saying. He said, but the best thing for you is to set the example by your personal behavior to reform others, not by criticizing, Prabhupada said, but by friendly behavior. So this is such an important thing, that if we criticize, if it comes across as criticism, even if it's coming from your parents, right? Pretty much all of us have had that experience, or our mother or father said something we didn't like, even if it's coming from our parents. If we feel like it's just criticism, if we feel like it's just envy, it doesn't work. But if we feel like that person is my friend, then we can listen. And maybe, honestly, maybe we can't listen at all. But we see someone has a good example. Someone has good behavior. And that person may not say anything, but by their good example, they're preaching in the strongest way. As St. Francis of Assisi once instructed some of his followers, he said, you should preach. And if necessary, you should also say something. In other words, preaching doesn't mean that you speak. Preaching means that you behave, that you do. And if necessary, you should also say something. Is that helpful, Sanatani?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank
Because
you.
if we don't do that, if we start cultivating a culture of disrespect, of criticism, of distrust, of finding fault with others, and maybe I'm doing it because I'm a very senior devotee, and who is this Sanatani anyway? And she's junior to me, so I have a right. I'm giving the lecture here today. I have a right to do this thing. But if I go and set that example, then other people will also follow that example. They'll think, oh yes, I want to be a senior devotee like Madhavananda and find fault with everybody and criticize everybody also. And if everybody's criticizing, how will there be any unity? How will there be any friendship or love? And how will things go on? And when new people come and they see that we're all quarreling, we can't get along, they think, oh, they'll be disappointed. They may have thought, I was really hoping that this society was different, that this would be a society of love and respect, but it's not. Such an important thing. Thank you, Sanatani. Anybody else with any reflection they want to share? Something that you liked? Anything? Okay, we've got Ananta Prabhu.
So according to the how to say, the lessons those gurus gave to their disciples, that means the living entities are equal from two standpoints. One, because they are then the qualities Satchitananda, but also because if someone is socially lower, can do something else better than somebody who is socially higher. So it's kind of an equality in the sense that, let's say, a street sweeper and a sannyasi. What the predicament the street sweeper is in Radhakund. You understand what I mean? Like somebody can do their their own thing much better than the others. So this also encourages maybe twice to see somebody not from the outwardly dress they have or activities they perform. And also I've heard you put one food for thought in one of your classes when you're asking who is higher, the gopis of Vrindavan or the works in stool in eyes of Krishna. If you can say a few words about this.
I don't remember that exact comment. Krishna loves the gopis of Vrindavan, but there's a verse by Bodhananda Saraswati Thakur in his Vrindavan Mahimamrita. I don't remember the Sanskrit, but he says there that I would rather take birth as a low insect, as a worm in stool, but be in Vrindavan than to be a gopi outside of Vrindavan. That's how vexed he was on Vrindavan. So it's an important thing. We have to follow what our Gurudev has given us. And Gurudev gives different people different instructions for different times. Let me read you a little something, Ananta Prabhu. This is a very beautiful statement. This is from the introduction Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote to his book, Krishna Samhita. And it's just very, very deep what he says. So, dear devotees, please listen carefully. He says there, sectarianism is a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. What? We don't like sectarianism, but it's a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. Just like stool is a natural byproduct of prasadam. You take prasadam, right? So sectarianism is a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. And he goes on to explain that when the acharyas come, they speak according to the particular people, the mentality of the local people. And he says that a rule that's followed in one society is not necessarily accepted in another. And as a community starts developing more respect for its own standards, they start hating other communities that have inferior standards, or what they consider to be inferior standards, because a different guru, a different acharya spoke to them, and he saw their instruction as something different. I've been told, I don't know, this is not an historical point, but I've been told that Prophet Muhammad, one of the most important principles that he taught when he first started speaking to those personalities that he was speaking to is, don't have sex with camels. It's really bad. Don't have sex with camels. That's who he's speaking to. Srila Prabhupada didn't speak like that. Rupa Goswami definitely didn't speak like that. But you may have to speak like that if there's a certain quality of persons. And we don't say that they're bad. They have a particular instruction, and they should respect that, and they should honor that instruction. So different communities will have different standards. And one community, for example, your temple there in Oslo, you want to have nice deity worship. And you'd like to learn from ISKCON Mayapur or ISKCON New Brajadam in Hungary. They have very good deity standards. But I can tell you, I don't think you can imitate them, because they've got hundreds of Brahmins. They have a standard which is developed over many, many years. They've worked on it very hard. They have such a good standard. You can't imitate it. You have to have a standard which is real for your community. And similarly, we have certain instructions that Guru gives to certain people. Prabhupada tells a story about one thief who wanted to become a sadhu. And his guru told him, he really wanted to steal. His guru told him, look, go on parikrama while everybody's asleep. Just take all their money and their possessions and take them from one person and put them in the pockets of another person. So you're not actually stealing, but you're just moving the valuables from one person to another. So you kind of get the satisfaction of stealing. And so he was doing that. That's not an instruction you would give to a normal person, I hope. But Guru gives a particular instruction to a particular person. Prabhupada said it's not that deity worship is for everyone. It's not that everyone should be initiated. There should be a certain standard. And maybe that standard, speaking about deity worship, maybe it's not going to be so high because we don't have so many pujaris and whatever. But then we maintain it in a certain way with the persons we have. And we don't lower it by having unqualified persons doing it. So those are a few thoughts on your question, comment, Ananta Prabhu. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else there with any reflections or anything? It's such an important topic about community and things. Does anybody else have any reflections they want to share?
Yeah. We have a question. Go closer.
Okay.
Mr. Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful lecture.
Okay.
I was thinking a little bit around the topic respect, and I'm very grateful that we have live in the information age and have this wonderful technology, so we can have lectures like live stream from you from Puri. But I notice there's a lot of, with the internet we also have there's a lot of transparency and arguing, and like everything gets so close. We can like get to know like local problems in other countries, in other yatras, and people are commenting and hating each other and calling out names and so forth. So I wonder, do you have any advice on how we should I don't know, not use the internet, but it's so easy to not read things that sometimes I wish I didn't have read, you know, like for example the comment section after a class on YouTube or after a podcast or whatever. No, I'm not sure you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Once someone came to pick me up and give us a ride from the airport in Delhi, and he was a young devotee. And as he was driving the car, he said, "Prabhu, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, I've only been in the temple for 6 months." And he said, "I don't understand. When I joined, I was so happy and everything was so good." He said, "But now, after 6 months, I don't feel so happy anymore. And I don't understand why." And I immediately, I asked him, I said, "Who have you been talking to?" Because sometimes in the beginning, we come and we think, everyone's a pure devotee. Oh my God, it's so wonderful. We go to the temple, we're so excited. Everyone is a pure devotee. This is so amazing. And then we're just glorifying everybody as a pure devotee, and we're glorifying Ananta Prabhu. And then somebody says, Ananta? Ananta? Are you going to say Ananta? I saw Ananta eating prasadam in the bathroom. They'll say some, I don't know, they'll say whatever. They'll say some criticism about him. How can you give respect to him? Oh. And then all of a sudden we're no longer so happy. When we can give respect to everyone, we feel so happy when we see good qualities in everyone. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in one purport, he says that the quality of a Vaishnava is, he says the quality of a Vaishnava is that they're adosha darshi. They don't see faults in others. So how can we not see faults in others? Because I'm always seeing faults. My Guru Maharaj gave us a formula. He said, rather you should see fault in yourself. You see all the faults in yourself. And when you look at other people, look for some good quality. Find some good thing, and there's something good in everyone. And show them some love. Show them some forgiveness. Overlook the bad qualities, just like in a child. With a child, if you point out all the bad things that a child does, the child will become traumatized. And he'll never grow up, he'll never feel inspired. You have to encourage the child and give the child love and encourage, and you have to overlook the bad qualities. And sometimes you have to say, look, you did this thing, it wasn't good, but I love you. And if the child really feels that you love them, then you can chastise them. But we should be careful and not just criticizing everybody blindly. I'd like to show you a little cartoon that I got from the internet some time back. This is the nature of the internet. There's two dogs in front of a computer, and one dog is telling the other dog, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. So you're saying there's transparency on the internet. But what kind of transparency is there? I can say so many bad things about any manager, about any devotee or anyone, but you don't know the bad things about me. My Guru Maharaj said it was like a conversation once where the sieve, you know, a sieve, you put rice in a sieve and it has thousands of holes. And the sieve was once criticizing the needle. And the sieve was telling the needle, just see, you have a hole in you, you have a fault. And finally the needle said, hey, Baba, you have so many holes. So I'm finding fault with other people, but am I a qualified person to do that? Is that what Srila Prabhupada wanted me to do? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wrote a letter to one disciple, and he said, I don't know why you've taken on this very difficult task of chastising the devotees. He said, that's my work. I don't know why you want to take on that task. We don't have to find fault with everyone. And if on the internet we're seeing all these nasty things, I don't want to see it. I don't take part in those discussions. I've learned over the years, Facebook discussions, you write something and someone says, that's not true. And they argue something with you, right? And then you become very disturbed. Well, people are not going to appreciate me. I had a good argument. And you write something back. And then they write back again. And then you can't sleep at night. I see people, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They haven't taken rest yet because they're still on Facebook trying to respond to some stupid thing that somebody says. And 3 days later, 1 week later, after your conversation is over, everybody forgets about it anyway. And your conversation didn't change anyone. Therefore, I say that Facebook is an illusion, is a delusion inside of an illusion. The material world is an illusion. And inside of that, we have Facebook and the internet, which is a delusion. And I think I can know about some devotee or some person by something that's said on the internet, but I can't see their heart. And therefore, it's a delusion inside of an illusion. And it's very difficult for us. But if we're strict, if we're serious, don't go there. Don't be like a fly that's looking for stool. Be like a honeybee that's always looking for nectar. And if we're like that, I promise you a very wonderful thing. Everyone will love you. If you're always finding good qualities. I had some people on my Facebook page some years ago. They were Ridviks. They were notorious Ridviks. And they were saying terrible things about everyone. And I told them, don't say bad things. If you're about people, I'm going to block you. I understand. And I was very sympathetic and I was respectful to them. I told them, I didn't agree with them, but I said, I appreciate you're concerned about Prabhupada's mission. And I was very respectful and kind to them. And finally, this Ridvik was like the #1 Ridvik in the world, saying nasty things about everybody. He said something I'd never seen him say anywhere before. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to advertise myself, but just to tell the story. He said, Madhavananda, you're a sadhu. You're a saintly person. He said that in public. And not because I'm a real sadhu, but because it touched his heart. Because I tried to give him some love and some respect. And if we do that with everyone in our dealings, everyone will love you. And our society will be so nice. And you can leave it to the managers to find the faults. Leave it to the GBC and the gurus to do all that. Thank God. I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to point out everybody's faults. It's terrible. Is that helpful, Prabhuji? It's a long answer. I'm sorry. Okay, so long that we've gone over time. Does anybody else have any reflections or comments or anything? Go ahead and share.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this time on your Sunday feast program. I don't want to take up all your time. I know you have other things to go to, especially Prasadam. I want to thank again Sanatani and Ananta Prabhus for doing this, and thank all of you for having us centered there in Norway. It's not an easy thing to be a Hare Krishna devotee in Norway. I know it's a little crazy sometimes, but Prabhupada, he needs you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu needs you, and you're all doing a very, very wonderful, special thing. So my sincere thanks and respects to all of you. Thank you.
There's a few just comments in the chat. I don't know if you saw them. It's just Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for this wonderful teaching on the importance of culture and respect. It is from Tamal Govinda Prabhu in Stavanger, ISKCON Stavanger. It's on the West Coast. And then there's one Lila Purushottam Prabhu. Says, wow, this is an eye-opener about the so-called transparency. So good. Thank you, Prabhu. And then Nilambari, she's writing, Dandavat Maharaj, thank you for this wonderful lecture on respect. And Jyotirmai, thank you very much, Prabhu, from Italy. So that's it.
Thank you all very much. You're very kind. And this is how we develop a Sangha community, even though we may be thousands of miles away from each other, but by sharing some thoughts and by being straightforward and having some back and forth about these things. So I want to thank all of you so much, and I don't want to take any more of your valuable time. We've almost done half an hour with this program.
please don't cancel the live feed. I just 2 seconds want to show you the deities, and then we can pay our pranams to each other, and then yeah.
Okay, I very much like that. You guys want to see the deities? There's a few devotees with us here. I want to see the deities too.
So this is Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. They are from Jagannath Puri actually,
Wow.
and
Wow.
they Swedish Mataji
Oh,
worshipped them for 17 years, and then they've been in Norway since 2012.
Wow. And whoever's doing a Shringar, it looks like they're dressed with so much love and devotion. It's really beautiful. You know, you can see the love of somebody in how they worship the deity. That's really wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sanatana. We need to have these little islands of devotion, islands of sanity, in amidst the oceans of Kali Yuga. And that's what ISKCON Oslo is like. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we go Ananta, then so I turn it off then? It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Bhaktavinda ki jai,
Jai.
Padrubish cha, Veva cha,
His Grace Madhavendra Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.